hit the mark live with Facebook, but we've had some difficulty doing that. So give people a few minutes. We're glad for the folks that join us live at Facebook every Monday. Depending on where you are in the world, you can find us every Monday here at Facebook Live, and we are. Welcome to ScaleUp Heroes. We're up to episode 19. Each Monday, we are here with the heroes to bring you the best minds, the best real-life experiences when it comes to scaling up businesses. With us every week are panelists that are the heroes that took on the difficult odds and are living to tell the tale. To all of our viewers, we invite you to visit our website, scaleupacademy.io. Today, we're discussing scaling up sales, and we welcome our viewers and our guests to the show. I want to introduce today's moderator. He is Dan McKinnon. Dan is the VP of Sales at CrossEngage, coming to us from London. Welcome, Dan. I'll let you take it away.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me, Randy. I'm VP of Sales for CrossEngage. CrossEngage is a customer data and engagement platform, and I've been at CrossEngage for 7 months, and we are looking to scale up all areas of our commercial team, and that kind of lends itself to the topic today, which is around team building in the commercial environment. But before we move on to some questions, I thought it'd be good if the other panelists could maybe introduce themselves. Maybe we could start with Dylan.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dylan from Malaysia. Yeah, I've been with oBike for like 9 months. I'm the director of oBike. So like we are the first bike sharing from the Southeast Asia. So we started up from Singapore, and we are expanded to like more than 20 countries for the past 2 years. And we have been like in 30 cities so far. Yeah. So the speed we grow a business is consistently on par with the big global company, so that we make sure that the speed is there.
Okay, maybe Francisco.
Hello, everybody. I'm the general manager for N26 in Spain. I am actually traveling very much across our headquarters and also our Spanish office. So I think one of the key topics that we will be discussing today is how do we build a team that can have a good connection with the headquarters, but also have a local impact. And I think that's where I can add most value with my experience in N26. Prior to that, I built Funding Circle in Spain, and I will also be able to share some experiences regarding that team that we grew here.
And finally, Junxian.
Hi, my name is Junxian. I'm a CEO of a company called Moovaz. We're a startup, we're less than a year old. The business we're in is an international relocation of professionals. So by nature of our industry, we already interact with people and partners across the world, and that poses like specific challenges that we seek to overcome. So hoping to share a little bit more about how we overcome these challenges in a bit.
Great, thanks for that. So the topic today we're talking about is actually team building and building out that commercial environment we all work within, potentially across different territories. So I thought a good starting point would be the different types of roles that you guys are looking to hire, or your experience of hiring in terms of building out those commercial teams, and where you put the priority. What are the priority roles that you would start with in terms of building out that team? Does anybody want to maybe start off there? Francisco, why don't we start with yourself?
All right, let's kick it. Yeah, let's kick it off. First of all, one thing that I needed to have clear when I was interviewing is the knowledge of the market, right? So really, how important is it to understand the market needs and basically the value proposition of our product? In our case, N26 is a mobile bank, and we need to understand that we are targeting it's a B2C business, but obviously there's a lot of commercial relationship that we can build with our clients, and most importantly with partners that will be able to sell outside. So it's how do you understand the market, first of all, when we started hiring, how flexible are these people in order to like just not do one type of role, but as we grow, adapt, as we see one kind of opportunity or the other. and for that, experience is very relevant, but it's not the key thing. So I would say you need to hire somebody with some experience to be able to go out there and express themselves and open connections. But most importantly, it's that push that person will have inside and the willingness to sell, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've mentioned sell there. So I'm assuming that you're looking at sales roles as the first port of call in terms of growing out the team. And you also touched on another topic there, which was a combination of different roles. What type of roles are you merging together?
So first of all, it's how do we, so the two roles that I think are key is like that sales profile with that longer term strategic vision on where are we going as a business, where do we see that opportunity as we are growing a business that it is not really clear what's the commercial path. It is not just selling loans, right, as a bank. It is really finding those opportunities on and adapting our product to how our customers behave, right? So we need somebody that's very, very good at speaking, but also very good at listening. So those are two key functions for us. And I would say the one thing we do when we interview somebody at the very early stage is, okay, how would you actually sell this to me? And what would be the main questions you ask me first? What would be the three questions? Because as a salesperson, you need to be able to know who you have in front, right?
Okay. So if I heard in there, it was quite an interesting point. It almost sounds like you're building out your organizational chart at the beginning and then working from the beginning on that journey towards where that might be. But you wanted to understand what that might look like at the very beginning of your journey.
Yeah, pretty much. So I know how I want it to look like. I do hire people that are able to grow those teams below themselves, right? So it's more like really growing a tree, let's put it that way, right? So the big branches will start growing more and more, and the business will develop that way.
And Dylan, any comment from you with regard to the types of roles that you're looking to hire and which roles you've prioritized?
Yeah, we do have that, like the core value, the company when do a hiring. So there's a few core values and the point that we're looking at when we do the hiring. And for myself, what we're looking at is the number one is flexible, because we are a startup and the pace very fast, and we have a lot of deal with government and a lot of issue with the consumer, and everything is immature yet, because like no one know what is tomorrow will happen. And then second thing is we make sure the team that we hire is global thinking but local execution, so that we can do something is localized to ensure that the strategy we not just blindly follow the HQ, but we fit for the culture and then the sentiment for the society, the local society, so that make sure that our message to the local customer is relevant to them. So, and then the third thing will be like they need to be outstanding and never settle down. So never settle down for the standard. So always consistently to push themselves to improve in terms of like the user experience, and then the strategy, and then the operation, so that to provide better services.
Okay. So having heard both the answers so far, it almost seems like it's not about defining what those roles are. It's more about finding good people, A players, and then kind of adapting them into the roles you might have available. Do you have any thoughts on that, Junxian, at all?
Yeah, I think like similar to Francisco and Dylan, hiring the right person definitely solves a very big part of the problem. But I guess for us, because we're an international relocation, going to market in a very aggressive way is actually is a prerequisite for us. So the strategy that we chose was basically to send people from headquarters out. So that way, these people are already familiar with, I guess, our modus operandi. They're familiar with our faces, right? They know the processes within. How this works for us is basically that these people go out there to figure out our hiring needs for us. So for example, we've expanded to India and Australia, and we are like an 8-month-old company. This is not the first time we're doing a startup, but but this is the first time we're executing a plan in this way. So we basically like identify, like Dylan mentioned, right, like outstanding like generals, if you will. send them out. There's going to be a fair amount of localization it's going to play out. And basically, we trust our generals to figure out the hiring needs. So typically, I guess from an organizational structure perspective, we tend to hire 2 salespeople and 1 sales operator. So one mid to senior level person who comes with networks, 1 junior person to do a little bit of the legwork, if you will, and then like a sales operator basically to run some of the fulfillment and administrative requirements. So it's a lean team, but typically when we go to market, especially international markets, we send these launcher teams there, and then they figure out as a consequence the hiring needs. Yeah, we just feels a little bit faster, it's a little bit more efficient that way, because the challenge is that we don't know what we don't know. So the fastest way to figure that out is to try to know what we don't know, and then we can go about solving that, right? So yeah, I guess for our company, this is basically how we go about going to market.
And do you have examples of different territories where you've allowed different types of recruiting structure to build out the team, and yet it's both working? Because I have a feeling that maybe if you allow them that freedom, and then the first time it doesn't work in a territory, you're going to say, well, it's working this way in that territory, and you're going to say, let's continue with that sort of process moving forward in the other territories. Right. So
it's a good point. I guess especially in Southeast Asia, our area is extremely fragmented. So consumption habits and therefore execution habits in Indonesia is going to be very different from Malaysia, very different from Singapore, very different from Thailand. The language is different, the culture is different, the way consumers consume, the way they make payments are different. For example, in Indonesia, people are used to cash on delivery. So whatever services that you bring to them, you pay on the spot. Whereas in Australia, people are just more comfortable paying via PayPal, right, or credit card, for example, because it's reversible. So that kind of affects the operational requirements. It's entirely different, right? The fulfillment teams are entirely different because if you need people to be carrying cash to and fro from Indonesia, you might need bodyguards or something in Indonesia. True story. So I guess just comparing these 2 examples, Australia and Indonesia, they're entirely different already, and therefore the cost structure is different. Labor is a lot cheaper in Indonesia, and therefore the first port of call is not so much how you automate it via technology, which might take time. It's how do I solve the problem tomorrow by throwing humans at it, right? And then in Australia, it's entirely different because the minimum wage is I don't know, $20 US, right, per hour. So obviously the first port of call is to try to solve it using technology. So just comparing these 2 examples, the hiring needs and therefore the solution to the hiring needs are entirely different.
Yeah. So we've had a couple of people now mention potentially opening up new territories and landing with A players who are able to build their own team. It sounds like these people are typically from a sort of commercial background. On that basis, I'm thinking the operational type people tend to be in head office. How do you make that work? And I'm thinking particularly around roles, around solutions and client support. How do you make that work when you have a sort of a foreign territory to head office? Are there conversations around who owns what particular role? Do you have any examples around that?
So for us specifically, probably can get Dylan and Francisco's input in there as well. But for us, I think from the onset, we defined headquarter roles as a support function. And then kind of in the army, right? And then every other territory, it's sales heavy. So the key matrix that we drive in the short to maybe the short medium term would be sales figures, because revenue numbers basically drives our key metrics, which helps us with our fundraising requirements, right? So so first and foremost, these guys, especially our overseas territories, I think revenue and market share acquisition is key for us. And then at headquarters, basically we try to centralize a lot of our operational or support functions in support of all these sales figures. So we don't fix it till it's broken. And at our current stage, it's not really broken. But I think as we grow and as we scale and we face localization requirements, problems, I think Dylan correctly shared, regulations and continuously changing regulations are a thing and a problem in Southeast Asia. When that happens and it comes to the breaking point, then we start hiring teams locally to solve these very specific problems. But in the near term, to be efficient, we kind of house all of our sales support in headquarters for speed primarily.
Yeah. And this not necessarily for Junxian, maybe for Francisco. When you're hiring these A players in sort of foreign territories to head office, at what point do you start to sort of separate the specialism of what somebody does in their role? And what determines when that happens? Is it driven by the number of clients? Is it driven by revenue? Is it driven by expertise? At what point does that happen?
I think it's actually driven by the size of the business that you're generating, right? At the very early stage, you need to be highly connected with the decision makers in the company, meaning the headquarters, and you need to be traveling a lot there, and you need to actually engage with the managers in headquarters to understand where the company is going and how to push that product. As you see the market developing and knowing what works and how you want to grow in that market, then you can start focusing on performance and really have that person in charge running a team that is not that connected to headquarters. This, however, when you make that decision is I would say the key critical point in the business, where you say if it's too early, you screw up, you might lose a lot. If it's too late, maybe you're spending a lot on traveling and really not having the right people to push it hard, to push your product hard enough. However, the one thing that I think it's key to always keep in mind in headquarters is that it's a two-way road with not only headquarters pushing growth, but also the local office pushing market knowledge. And I really explaining what's happening in the market and why, how are the local competitors behaving, and how to adapt to it, and how to understand that maybe in different geographies you have to act differently, as Junxian was mentioning.
Yeah, it's an interesting area. That's quite often where the disconnect kind of happens between head office and local. Have you ever had an example of where maybe the strategy in the local market has been pulled back, stripped back, and started again? Or is it best to just keep pushing forward and go with what head office says?
Oh, that's a very good question. So I think the challenge is always to explain why they need to make smaller changes to a global product when they don't understand the market. So let me put it into a bit of context. If we're trying to have a European product and we're selling that same European product across geographies, that could work. But you need to understand that possibly, and it's our case, our customers use the product differently across geographies.
Yeah.
So even if we were able to say, okay, we got a global product, it works. Okay, you need to understand how customers behave around that product. So it's key to be able to explain that and to be able to like share that. Because of that, there needs to be a different selling strategy, right?
Yeah. Okay. And what about yourself, Dylan? What sort of specialty roles did you implement in the business early? And I'm thinking, as an example, something like a go-to-market strategy. Does it always have to be direct? Is it channel and direct, or is it channel only? Is there a which way is the right way? Dylan, you're on mute still.
So we tried a different way to do that, and we try. Of course, we bang a lot of walls to find out the best strategy for us, and sometimes with the market, we'll go for like the local market driven. So meaning that we understand the market and then let the local people, we empower them to do the right thing, the strategy, as long as they're aligned with the KPI and then the fundamental with the company. And we do it as take. And some country we do by the top down strategy, meaning like everything is according to the HQ, and once we align with HQ, just push for that. So it really depends on the country and the market. Once we understand for both, because there's not really one one answer for both. So we will try to adjust, be flexible when we roll out.
Yeah. So we've mentioned about go-to-market and sort of building out teams. I'm wondering if anyone has an experience around not actually going to a market, but learning that market through maybe a reseller of an offering or a platform. Do you have any experience of how that might work and the pros and cons?
In learning, yeah, the pros and cons definitely is like when you know something better, you know the culture, the market faster. But the cons definitely is like sometimes let's say we are a foreigner, you don't know what is the politics issue, and then like what is the sensitive issue during the market. So it kind of bad for us because our our business sometimes it will be like strict bank with the government, and because of the policy, and government try to protect to make sure the city is clean and nice. But however, our business sometimes will make the city quite messy. So these kind of things that we need to understand more, and there's a pros and cons for that.
Yeah, and is there, I guess, for the sort of Southeast Asia area, is there a differing strategy in terms of where you go and when, based on languages and how that might work within the business?
Not really. Yeah. We I think we go by the I would say these are more suitable for the market, and which one we see the potential and we believe in the market.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Francisco, it sounds like you're a bit further in your journey and you have experience from the past. How many different teams can you have within one commercial team? How many different roles? Is there too many?
Different roles. It really depends, I guess. So at Funding Circle, it was very, very clear how we actually build the teams. It was far more mature business than N26, and how we actually set up was there were, I would say, 5 agents and 1 manager for every 5 agents. However, that manager will also do part of the same activity on the sales process, right? And you could have up to, I would say, 8 teams with that 6-people teams with that structure under two people, under 2 different managers that will do the more qualitative and quantitative, I would say, evaluation and also management, and will cover each other, right? So I think it really makes sense to have junior and senior people in those 5, I would say, more agent level, that could also learn and teach from each other, and also give them 20% of their time opportunities in developing in different parts of the business, and also evolving on the different types of clients they're approaching, and really making sure that there's a career path for them, right? Even though at some point you start seeing the churn. So I think, yeah, I think that's.
You talk there about junior and senior, but what about things like demand generation team, SDR teams, and specialist pre-sales? Given your experience, is demand generation a topic that should be very much separated?
That very much depends on the funnel that you have, and on the churn that you have, or the people that fall off, and how much you can recuperate or recover in the middle of the funnel, right? How people that you lost. You mentioned SDR, yeah, that makes total sense. I would be mostly concerned. So I strongly believe that in most cases, the first contact and maintaining that contact with the client is very relevant, or a person that you can identify well, instead of actually passing the ball from one level of the funnel to the other. Saying, okay, yeah, I think that's also allows the agent to be a bit more diverse than just doing one activity.
Right. So you prefer a sort of buddy system where the senior manager is helping the junior, so that the first port of call with the customer is the best possible scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Okay. Are there any questions, for maybe even for me, from anyone with regards to scaling out teams and or any problems people have in their current business that they'd be looking to share and see if we can help?
I think you mentioned something that was very relevant. Do you use different channels, or do you use direct? So around partnerships, how do you actually can grow in a country with that, or like leveraging on that local expertise that's already there instead of building it yourselves, right? So it's how do you look for that partnerships that are the most important ones? Yeah,
I think the conversation around demand generation team versus sales team, what types of roles to land. I don't necessarily think there's always a right answer. I think it will vary from territory to territory. I have experience of opening up in new markets where we've outsourced and used a demand generation agency and it's worked. I've used them in territories where the language wasn't English and it hasn't worked so well. And I believe maybe in those territories, you've got to land with maybe a team of 5 in one go in order to make that process work. So it can vary. I do buy into your idea that you want, and it depends on what you're selling. You want the first person that's speaking to that or client or prospect to be able to have an engaging conversation rather than it just be a tick box of, yeah, can you tell me this or that? So I think the model will vary. I think things like go to market directly versus channel are interesting. I think my personal experience, if you're going to do channel, I think you have to do it as a 100% effort. It can't be a dip in, dip out. I think it's an all in strategy. So yeah, I guess with any scale, there's not always a right or wrong. It's more about what works for your company, how your offering works, and the territory you're going into. But I think, as you described at the very beginning, I think product fit is a good sign. If that works, then you build from there. That was a long answer to the question.
That's good.
Is there anything else from anyone? So maybe we can wrap up there then, Randy. So I think it's as I've just described, I think it's a very interesting conversation. I think it's something that you can learn from, but the answer may vary from company to company in terms of building. And I think having that experience of failing is probably invaluable in all cases.
Why don't we start with you, Dan, and let's go around the horn and give everybody one last shot. For those people that are in our audience that are trying to learn from this, what would be your parting words of wisdom?
So I kind of touched on a little bit when Francisco was talking earlier on. Building the teams, I think it's really important to have something to work towards. It may not be where you end up, but I think having a organizational chart about the different types of roles, what their job titles, what their deliverables are at the beginning, and then filling it in from there. You need to be agile, but at least having a goal. So when you're hiring, you're making sure you're not just hiring people for the sake of it, but there's actually a defined structure in mind. I think that's a good starting point for anyone.
Dylan?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, because the structure is very important as a fundamental for company, and especially with the hiring coming with the core value according to the core value. So we'll make sure that the core value is top down and then control, so that in long run, even though your company is skewed to like massive in other country, so that you still can control the gist of it, and then like you know that the strategy and then the mentality and the people they still align, because the end of the day align is very important for me.
Francisco, you're on mute.
The one point we mentioned, and I think we're all agreed on, is that A players at the very beginning are very valuable, also relevant if they know specifically the local market concerns, and you're able to adapt to that quickly. And then really understanding how you can find good executors to actually scale up that team very fast, right?
I think the secret to finding those A players is a whole new podcast in itself, though.
Indeed. It's a series. All right, you get our last word.
Myself?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess I can like summarize what they said. I fully agree with I think what all the other gentlemen has shared. And summarize in two, I guess, broad topics. Like I really like what Sir Richard Branson said. Like I think like when it comes to A-list players, like sometimes we find good ones. Often I think we find ourselves training them up, because as a young company, you work with younger people, right? So a lot of it is about empowering them rather than being able to poach like really high quality talents from day one. So I think Sir Richard Branson once said that train people so that they would leave, so they're good enough to leave, but treat them well so that they will stay, right? I think that holds true. It's at the core of our beliefs in our company, and especially as a young company, we know that all of us, we have development needs, right? But ultimately, we want to treat our guys well so that they're going to stay with us for the long haul. I think I really agree with what, especially Dan chat, that because in fast growth companies, it feels like a tectonic plates below your feet are shifting, and when your daily life never normalizes, it can create a lot of stress. Therefore, having clear KPIs and goals tells them, hey, if we're on this ship, we're heading to Spain, and this is the direction. It's going to be 15 days away. So now we're at day 3. It gives people a little bit of hope, I guess, in the direction, and that way it keeps them sustained. Yeah, so I feel like having, exactly like Dan mentioned, having clear KPIs that our guys can, mini milestones, right? Our guys can target along the way, really lend some form of clarity to their everyday work, and that sustains the morale. So yeah, I fully agree with the gentleman.
Very good. And thanks, Dan, for moderating. Thanks to the audience for watching ScaleUp Heroes, and a special thanks to all of our panelists today. We invite you to visit our website, scaleupacademy.io, to learn more about us and what we do. And if you find these live shows valuable, we hope that you'll hit that like button and share today's show. Join us next Monday. You can see us every Monday here live on Facebook for another episode of ScaleUp Heroes. In the meantime, everybody have a great week. Thanks, everybody.